Maya Johnson wiped sweat from her forehead as she walked through the dark corridors of Unity Hub Space Station. It was 3 in the morning, and most people were sleeping. Maya worked the night shift because it paid a little extra, and she needed every credit she could get. Her 6-year-old daughter Keisha was back home with her grandmother, probably dreaming about the toy spaceship Maya promised to buy her next month. The space station was huge, with different sections for different alien species. Humans mostly lived in the cheaper areas and did the dangerous jobs that other species didn't want. Maya had been working as a maintenance engineer for 2 years, fixing pipes, checking air systems, and making sure everything ran smoothly while everyone else slept. Tonight felt different though. Her scanner was beeping more than usual, showing some strange readings in the Kalani section. The Kalani were tall, blue-skinned aliens who breathed a different type of air than humans. Their living areas were off-limits to human workers unless there was a real emergency. As Maya walked closer to the Kalani residential wing, the beeping got louder and faster. She stopped and checked her readings again. The numbers made her stomach drop. There was a massive oxygen leak in the Kalani section, and it was getting worse by the minute. This wasn't just a small problem, this was deadly. Maya immediately called her supervisor, Diego Rivera, on her comm device. Diego, we have a major leak in Kalani Section 7. The oxygen levels are dropping fast. Diego's sleepy voice crackled through the speaker. Maya, just seal off that section and wait for the morning crew. We're not authorized to enter alien living spaces. But Diego, there might be people in there. Kids could be sleeping in those rooms. That's not our problem. Follow protocol and seal it off. End of discussion. Maya stared at her scanner as the numbers kept getting worse. She knew the rules. Human workers weren't supposed to enter alien sections without special permission. But she also knew that if she waited until morning, anyone trapped inside would be dead. She walked to the entrance of Section 7 and peered through the reinforced glass window. Emergency lights were flashing red, and she could see a thin, poisonous gas starting to fill the hallways. That's when she saw something that made her heart race. A small figure was moving near one of the doors, stumbling and falling. It was a Kalani child, maybe 8 or 9 years old, with the same blue skin as the adults but much smaller. The child had been trying to escape but had collapsed under a piece of equipment that had fallen from the ceiling during the leak. Maya pressed her face against the glass. The child was still moving, trying to push the heavy metal beam off their legs, but getting weaker. The poisonous gas was getting thicker, and soon it would be impossible for anyone to survive in there. Her comm device buzzed again. Maya, I'm checking the cameras. Do not enter that section. That's a direct order. We'll send the proper team in the morning. Maya looked at the child again. In the morning would be too late. She thought about her own daughter Keisha, sleeping safely at home. What if Keisha was trapped like this? What if some rule or regulation stopped someone from helping her? Without thinking anymore, Maya grabbed her emergency breathing mask and the portable oxygen tank from her toolkit. She knew these wouldn't last long in that poisonous environment, but maybe long enough to reach the child. She typed in her access code and the door hissed open. Immediately, her eyes started burning from the toxic gas. The smell was horrible, like rotten eggs mixed with metal. Her breathing mask helped, but she could tell the air was really dangerous. Maya ran toward the child, her heart pounding. The little Kalani looked up at her with big, scared eyes. Maya had never seen a Kalani child up close before. They looked so much like human children when they were afraid, just wanting someone to help them. It's okay, Maya said, even though she wasn't sure if the child could understand English. I'm going to get you out of here. The metal beam was heavier than it looked. Maya had to use all her strength to lift it just enough for the child to crawl out. Her arms were shaking, and the poisonous gas was making her dizzy. But she kept lifting until the child was free. The little Kalani grabbed onto Maya's arm, and together they stumbled toward the exit. Maya's vision was getting blurry, and her chest felt like it was on fire from breathing the toxic air even through her mask. Just as they reached the door, Maya collapsed. The last thing she remembered was pushing the child through the doorway to safety before everything went black. Maya woke up 3 days later in the station's medical bay. Her throat felt like sandpaper, and her lungs burned with every breath. The doctor said she was lucky to be alive. The toxic gas had damaged her respiratory system, and she would need months of treatment to fully recover. Her friend Tanya Washington sat beside her bed, holding Maya's hand. Girl, you scared us all to death. But that little alien kid is okay because of you. The whole station is talking about what you did. Maya tried to smile, but it hurt to move her face. Where's Keisha? Is my baby okay? She's fine. Your grandma is taking care of her. But Maya, We need to talk about something else. Tanya's voice got serious. They fired you. Maya's heart sank. Even though she had saved a child's life, the station administrators had terminated her employment for breaking safety protocols. Her supervisor Diego had reported that she disobeyed direct orders and entered a restricted area without authorization. They said you created a liability issue, Tanya explained. Some lawyer told them that if you got hurt or killed, the station could be sued. They're more worried about money than the fact that you saved someone's life. Maya closed her eyes. Without her job, how would she pay for Keisha's school? How would she afford the medical treatment she needed? The unfairness of it all made her want to cry, but she was too exhausted even for tears. What Maya didn't know was that the child she saved belonged to someone very important. Thrix was the youngest child of High Counselor Vexnal, one of the most powerful leaders in the Kalani government. The Kalani were not just residents of Unity Hub, they were major partners in the Galactic Commerce Alliance, controlling trade routes worth billions of credits. When Vexnal learned that a human worker had risked her life to save Thrix, they wanted to personally thank Maya. But when they discovered Maya had been fired for her heroic act, something clicked in the counselor's mind. This didn't seem right. Vexnal began asking questions. Why was Maya working alone in such a dangerous area? Why didn't she have better safety equipment? Why were humans doing the most hazardous jobs on the station? The answers they received troubled them deeply. Maya wasn't the only human being treated unfairly. Vexnal discovered that human workers were consistently given the worst assignments, cleaning toxic waste, repairing dangerous machinery, working in areas where other species refused to go. When humans got hurt, their medical care was basic compared to what alien workers received. When they made small mistakes, they were fired immediately, while aliens got second and third chances. The investigation revealed something even more disturbing. Over the past 5 years, 17 human workers had died in preventable accidents on Unity Hub. Each time, the station management had quietly paid small settlements to their families and hired new humans to replace them. It was cheaper than improving safety conditions or giving humans better equipment. Meanwhile, Maya was discovering the harsh reality of being a fired human worker. She applied for jobs on other stations, but her termination record followed her everywhere. Station managers would see that she had been fired for protocol violations and immediately reject her applications. They didn't care about the details or the fact that she had saved a life. Her savings ran out quickly. Maya had to move out of her small apartment and take Keisha to live with her grandmother in the crowded human quarters. These were the cheapest living spaces on the station, with poor air circulation and constant noise from the machinery. Maya's friend Damon Foster worked in the station's data center and had access to employment records. What he found made him angry. Maya, this is crazy. Last month, a Zentari engineer crashed a cargo ship because he fell asleep on duty. You know what happened to him? He got a written warning and had to take a safety course. But you save a kid's life and get fired. Damon started collecting similar stories from other human workers. There was Lisa Chen, fired for being 5 minutes late 3 times in 1 month, even though she was a single mother whose childcare sometimes ran late. There was Andre Jackson, terminated for questioning why humans weren't given the same protective gear as other species. The pattern was clear: humans were treated as disposable workers, easily replaced and rarely valued. Vexnal's investigation reached the same conclusion from the other side. The High Counselor realized that the Galactic Commerce Alliance had been unknowingly supporting a system that treated an entire species as second-class citizens. The Alliance's member governments, including the Kalani Federation, were trading partners with stations and companies that systematically discriminated against humans. But Vexnal faced a difficult choice. Challenging this system would mean confronting powerful corporate interests and potentially disrupting profitable trade relationships. Many Kalani officials warned against getting involved in human problems. However, every time Vexnal looked at their child Thrix, now healthy and playing safely at home, they remembered that Maya had risked everything to save them. The High Counselor began reaching out to other alien leaders, sharing Maya's story and asking a simple question: is this the kind of galaxy we want to live in? High Counselor Vexnal faced the biggest political challenge of their career. The Kalani Council was not happy about their investigation into human worker conditions. During a heated meeting, Senior Counselor Yextar slammed their hand on the table and said, "Vexnal, you're risking billions in trade agreements over one human worker. The corporations will pull their contracts if we start demanding they change how they treat their employees." But Vexnal couldn't forget Maya's sacrifice. Every night, they tucked their child Thrix into bed, knowing that without Maya's courage, this moment wouldn't exist. Some things are more important than money, Vex now replied quietly. What kind of civilization are we building if we profit from suffering? While the politicians argued, Maya's story was spreading in ways no one expected. Her friend Damon had shared the details with other human workers across the galaxy through underground communication networks. These were secret channels that humans used to share job opportunities, warn each other about dangerous bosses, and support their families scattered across different star systems. Maya's story struck a nerve. Within weeks, hundreds of similar stories poured in from human workers on mining planets, cargo ships, and space stations throughout the galaxy. There was Jerome Washington, a human engineer on a Zentari mining colony who had prevented a reactor meltdown but was demoted because he overstepped his authority. There was Crystal Davis, a human medic who saved an entire alien crew from a plague outbreak but was transferred to a punishment post for using unauthorized medical procedures. The pattern was everywhere. Humans consistently risked their lives to help others, only to be punished for breaking rules or protocols. It seemed like the galaxy had forgotten that behind every regulation was a real person making a split-second decision between following orders and saving lives. Dr. Angela Foster, a human sociologist working on the research station New Geneva, began collecting these stories systematically. She had spent years studying how different species interacted, but Maya's case opened her eyes to something she had missed. We've been so focused on big diplomatic relations that we ignored how individual humans are treated, she realized. Angela's research revealed something remarkable. In emergency situations, humans had the highest success rate of any species for life-saving interventions. They also had the highest rate of job terminations and disciplinary actions for their emergency responses. It was as if the galaxy wanted humans to save lives but punished them for doing it. Meanwhile, Maya was struggling to survive. Her medical bills kept growing, and without insurance, she couldn't afford proper treatment for her damaged lungs. Some days, she could barely walk up the stairs to her grandmother's apartment without getting dizzy and short of breath. Her daughter Keisha was asking questions that broke Maya's heart. Mama, why did the bad people fire you for helping someone? In school, they teach us that helping others is good. Maya held her daughter close, trying to find simple words to explain a complicated and unfair world. Sometimes, baby, grown-ups make rules that don't make sense. But we still have to do what's right in our hearts, even when it's hard. Keisha's innocent question sparked an idea in Maya's mind. Children from all species were taught to help each other, to be kind, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. But somewhere along the way, adults had created systems that punished those very values. The story reached young aliens across the galaxy, and their reactions surprised their elders. On the Zentari homeworld, teenage students organized protests demanding better treatment for human workers. On the Kalani colonies, young people started learning human languages and reaching out to human communities to offer support. Niraesh, a young Kalani diplomat who was Vexnal's own cousin, became particularly passionate about Maya's case. She had grown up hearing stories about human bravery from her grandfather, who had fought alongside human soldiers in the border wars decades ago. Grandfather always said humans fight differently than us, Niraesh told her colleagues. They don't calculate odds or worry about regulations when someone needs help. They just act. That's not a weakness, it's their greatest strength. Kalrim, a Zentari researcher studying interspecies psychology, published a groundbreaking paper about what they called human intervention instinct. The research showed that humans had an almost unique ability to override self-preservation when others were in danger, even for people they didn't know and species they had never met before. Other species helped their own families, their own communities, Kalrim explained to a gathering of scientists. Humans help everyone. They see a child in danger, and their first thought isn't what species is this or what are the rules. Their first thought is how do I help? But Maya didn't know about the research papers or the protests. She was focused on basic survival, applying for any job that would hire her, even cleaning jobs that paid a fraction of what she used to earn. That's when her neighbor Denise Carter knocked on her door with unexpected news that would change everything. Denise Carter had been watching Maya struggle for months, and she couldn't stay quiet anymore. Denise was a former military medic who had served on 3 different planets before retiring to Unity Hub. She had seen enough injustice in her lifetime to recognize it when it was happening right next door. Maya, you need to hear this, Denise said, settling into the small kitchen of Maya's grandmother's apartment. High Counselor Vex now wants to meet with you. They're building a case to present to the Galactic Ethics Committee, and your story could change everything. Maya shook her head weakly. Denise, I can barely afford medicine for my lungs. I don't have time for politics. I need to find work so I can take care of Keisha. Girl, listen to me, Denise said firmly. This isn't just politics. This is about every human worker in the galaxy. Do you think you're the only one this happened to? Do you think your daughter will grow up in a fair world if nothing changes? Maya looked across the room where Keisha was doing homework at the old table. Her little girl was smart and curious, always asking why things worked the way they did. Maya realized that Keisha would grow up to face the same unfair treatment unless someone stood up and said it was wrong. The meeting with Vex now took place in a secure conference room on the diplomatic level of Unity Hub. Maya had never been in such a fancy place before. The walls were covered with art from different planets, and the furniture looked like it cost more than Maya made in a year. But Vex now surprised her. The tall, blue-skinned Kalani leader didn't act superior or distant. Instead, they knelt down to Maya's eye level and said something that made her cry. Thank you for saving my child. I know it cost you everything, and I'm sorry our systems failed you so badly. Vex now explained what they had discovered during their investigation. The discrimination against humans wasn't just happening on Unity Hub, it was part of a galaxy-wide pattern. Corporations had learned they could hire humans for dangerous jobs, pay them less than other species, and face few consequences when humans got hurt or killed. The Ethics Committee has agreed to hold hearings, Vex now continued. But they need to hear from humans directly. Your voice, your experience, could be the key to changing everything. Maya felt scared. Speaking in front of powerful aliens from across the galaxy seemed impossible for someone like her. I'm not good with fancy words or politics. I'm just a maintenance worker. That's exactly why your voice matters, Vex now replied. You're not a politician or a lawyer. You're a mother who saw a child in danger and acted with pure human instinct. That's what we need them to understand. Meanwhile, Dr. Angela Foster's research had reached other human communities, and something amazing was happening. Humans across the galaxy were sharing their own stories of discrimination and unfair treatment. But they were also sharing stories of the times they had helped others, often at great personal cost. There was Raymond Butler, a human cargo pilot who had crashed his own ship to avoid hitting a Zentari school, saving hundreds of children but losing his pilot's license. There was Cassandra Price, a human nurse who had stayed behind during a station evacuation to care for alien patients too sick to move, nearly dying when the life support failed. These stories spread through human communities like wildfire. For the first time, humans realized they weren't alone in their struggles. More importantly, they began to see that their willingness to help others, even when it cost them everything, was something special and valuable. The young aliens who had been inspired by Maya's story began organizing their own communities. Neraresh created an interspecies group called Voices for Justice that included young people from 12 different worlds. They used social networks and communication channels to spread awareness about human discrimination. Kalrim's research was being translated into dozens of alien languages. The scientific evidence was clear. Humans had measurably stronger protective instincts toward other species than any civilization previously studied. Yet this same trait was being punished throughout the galaxy. As the date for Maya's testimony approached, something unprecedented happened. Humans who had never met began supporting each other across vast distances. They pooled their credits to help Maya's family pay for medical treatment. They shared job opportunities with each other. They began acting like what they had always been but never recognized, a family scattered across the stars. Maya's friend Tanya helped her practice her testimony. Just tell them what happened, Tanya advised. Tell them about seeing Thrix trapped and what went through your mind. Tell them about being a mother who couldn't walk away from a child in danger. The night before the hearing, Maya sat by Keisha's bedside, watching her daughter sleep. Tomorrow, she would speak for every human who had ever been punished for doing the right thing. She was terrified, but she was also ready. The Galactic Ethics Committee chamber was the largest room Maya had ever seen. Representatives from 47 different species sat in curved rows that stretched up toward a domed ceiling painted with stars from across the galaxy. Maya felt tiny at the witness podium, but when she looked up and saw Vexnal's encouraging nod, she found her courage. My name is Maya Johnson, she began, her voice shaking slightly. I'm a single mother from Earth, and I used to fix pipes and air systems on Unity Hub. 3 months ago, I saw a child trapped in a gas leak, and I did what any parent would do, I saved them. Then I got fired for it. The room was completely silent. Maya had prepared a long speech, but looking at all those alien faces, she decided to just tell the truth in her own words. I don't understand fancy laws or trade agreements, she continued, her voice growing stronger. But I understand what it feels like to see a scared child who needs help. When I saw little Thrix trapped under that metal beam, I didn't think about rules or protocols. I thought about my own daughter, sleeping safely at home, and I knew I had to act. Maya told them about the toxic gas burning her lungs, about lifting the heavy beam with strength she didn't know she had, about pushing the child to safety even as everything went black. She told them about waking up fired, broke, and unable to find work anywhere in the galaxy. The thing is, Maya said, looking directly at the committee members, I would do it again. Even knowing what it would cost me, I would save that child again. Because that's what humans do. We help people, even when it hurts us. One by one, other humans took the stand. Raymond Butler described crashing his cargo ship to avoid a school. Cassandra Price talked about staying with dying patients when everyone else evacuated. Jerome Washington explained how he prevented a reactor meltdown but lost his job for exceeding his authority. The pattern was undeniable. Every human testified about a moment when they chose to help others instead of following safe, profitable rules. And every single one had been punished for it. But the most powerful moment came when the alien witnesses took the stand. Thrix, now healthy and growing taller every day, stood at the microphone with their parent Vex now translating their words. The human Maya saved my life, Thrix said in their young, clear voice. She got hurt helping me, and then her own people were mean to her. That's not fair. She should get a medal, not fired. Dr. Calrim presented their research showing that humans had prevented over 200 major disasters in the past 5 years alone. Without human intervention instinct, they testified, thousands of lives would have been lost across the galaxy. Yet these same humans face systematic discrimination for the very trait that makes them invaluable. The committee deliberated for 3 days. During that time, something remarkable happened across the galaxy. Humans who had been scattered and isolated began connecting with each other. They shared resources, found each other jobs, and started supporting their communities in ways they never had before. Young aliens continued their protests and advocacy. On the Kalani homeworld, students painted murals showing humans and aliens working together as equals. On Zentari colonies, families began inviting their human neighbors to cultural celebrations for the first time. When the committee finally announced their decision, Maya was back on Unity Hub, helping her grandmother with laundry in their tiny apartment. Denise Carter burst through the door with tears streaming down her face. Maya. We won. We actually won. The Galactic Ethics Committee had ruled that humans demonstrated unprecedented interspecies altruism and deserved protected status throughout Alliance space. No longer could humans be fired for life-saving actions. They would receive equal pay, equal safety equipment, and equal legal protections as any other species. More importantly, the committee established the Human Advocacy Corps, a new organization dedicated to ensuring fair treatment of humans throughout the galaxy. They offered Maya the position of director, with a salary that would let her buy a real home for her and Keisha. But Maya surprised everyone with her answer. I appreciate the offer, but I want to go back to maintenance work. That's where I can make a real difference. Unity Hub offered her a new position as Chief Safety Coordinator, designing emergency response protocols that valued human instincts instead of punishing them. Maya accepted, with one condition: her former supervisor Diego Rivera would work as her deputy, helping to train other supervisors about the value of human workers. Maya's first day back at work was different from anything she had experienced. She walked through the same corridors where she used to work alone and afraid, but now she led a mixed-species team of safety engineers. Humans worked alongside Kalani, Zentari, and species from across the galaxy, all learning from each other. The best part was the new emergency protocol Maya designed. When someone was in danger, the first question wasn't what do the rules say, but how do we save them? Human workers were specifically trained to trust their instincts, because the galaxy had finally learned that human compassion was not a weakness to be controlled, but a strength to be celebrated. 6 months later, Maya stood in her new apartment, watching Keisha play with her friends, human and alien children laughing together in the station's integrated playground. Thrix was there too, now almost as tall as Keisha, both of them planning their next adventure. Maya smiled as she watched them play. She had kept her promise to buy Keisha that toy spaceship, but more importantly, she had helped build a galaxy where her daughter could grow up knowing that kindness and courage were virtues worth celebrating, not weaknesses to be punished.